Hello. If we haven't met yet, I'm Kayla, and I am the creator here at My Well Oiled Life. All things oils and wellness, and just practical tips on how to use doTERRA oils and products. So I'm jumping on today to share with you all about using oils with kids and just a couple of tips and then a couple of my favorite oils. I could probably talk about this topic for hours because there are so many great oils for kids and I use them on my kids every single day. But I'm just gonna cover my top tips and my top oils with you guys. So I have two kids. I have a 5-year-old and I have an almost 2-year-old. And I have used oils with them pretty much since birth. Only doTERRA oils, those are the only oils that I would ever use around my children because of their quality and purity. Now, I often get asked, what oils can I use for my kids versus myself? I typically use the same oils on myself as I do on my kids. The only difference is I dilute more for my kids. So if you're looking for an idea of dilution ratios and guidelines, you can head to my tips and tricks highlight in my profile. And there is a suggested dilution chart in there because I do dilute differently based on ages. What I give a newborn is different than what I give a 1-year-old. It's different than what I give a 10-year-old. So it does matter because they're all different body sizes and weights, and when they're really tiny, they don't need very much at all. So you can head over there to check that out. But I'll use the same oils on my kids as I will on myself. I just dilute more. The other thing that I look at is if it's a really hot oil like cinnamon or black pepper or deep blue, I'm gonna dilute it further, like more if I need to, or I'm gonna pick just a milder oil because oils are they overlap in so many ways. So when you look at sleep, there's a ton of oils you can use for sleep. So I'm gonna pick one that's maybe not as, warming on the skin as a different one and try that one out. So always go with the ones that are a little bit more gentler, especially if your child has any sensitive skin issues or anything like that. And then where do you apply them? On my kids, I typically apply them on the spine or the feet. The reason for that is it's just a great way to get them in the body. I'm really just looking to support their overall bodies, generally like with sleep or calming or immune support. And so those are the general areas I'm gonna apply it. Plus on their feet, it's not very sensitive. I can just put some socks on and then they don't even touch it. With little tiny kids, if they play with their feet and they'll get it on their hands and then in their eye, the spine's a better idea just because they don't know any better. They can, rub their feet with their hands and stick it in their eye, and we don't want that. So if you have a little one that does that, definitely either put socks on right away or put it on their spine. Now, if they have a specific issue like their tummy hurts, you're gonna put that oil directly on their tummy, diluted of course, because that's where the problem is. My favorite thing about having these tools in my home is before my kids can tell me what's wrong. So for instance, my oldest is 5 now, and she can kind of tell me like, hey mom, my ear's hurting, my belly's hurting, whatever's happening. But when she was little and she didn't have the words, she couldn't tell me. So I never knew what was going on with her. But the great thing is I knew my oils would only support her. So I didn't have to worry. I could try something out. I always went for the tummy first because that typically is what's going on for kids. And so I would apply, for instance, Digestin on her belly. And then if she was still having problems, I would, try something different, to figure out what's hurting her. But the really amazing part is if I used the Digestin on her belly and it wasn't what was hurting her, it didn't hurt her. It didn't cause any unnecessary synthetics in her body. It was just a way to support her. So I absolutely love having these tools in my home for my kids. There's a few different ways you can do it. If you're using for your kids and you're applying them on their body, you can use a touch roller, there's a whole line of touch rollers, which means they're already pre-diluted, and they're diluted pretty well for kids. If you're using on a newborn, I do suggest putting a layer of coconut oil first and then just doing one swipe so you're not getting as much oil. There's also a kids line with 6 different blends, and they're made for kids. They're made for more school-age kids, but like I said, if you want to use for younger, you can always do a layer of coconut oil first, and that will give you that extra dilution. And then you can also make your own. So I know people love the convenience of the touch rollers, but you can easily make something similar for your kids, or you can even mix them in your hand. You can put a drop of oil in your hand, you know, and however much fractionated coconut oil or whatever carrier oil you prefer to use in your hand and apply it that way. Rollers just make it super easy because I don't know about you guys, but my kids will not sit there for me to mix something up in my hand real quick. They're gonna be gone. So I have to kind of chase them down and put the oils on. My littlest, my almost 2-year-old, loves oils, but she wants to do it herself. So often I'll have to give her a roller to put on her feet while I do whatever I need to do, because she's not gonna sit still to let me do it. So those are the kind of my top tips on using oils with kids, but let me just give you a couple of my favorites. I have a lot of favorites. I love copaiba. You guys know that. If you followed me for very long, you know I love that oil for myself, but I love it for my kids. I love it for teething. We will dilute it and put it on her gums, on my 2-year-old's gums, and when she was younger too, and she would ask for it. She knew which roller it was in. She'd point to it. She would ask for it because she knew it really helped her. And we'd also put it on the jawline. It's also great for things like sleep and calming and immune support and things like that. We also love Digestin, which is the digestive blend. I love all of the top 10 oils that you'll find in the Home Essentials Kit and the Family Essentials Kit for my kids. I do use a lot of other oils as well, but those 10 core oils are super helpful for both adults and kids. So if you've ever asked me about getting started and told me you had kids and that you were trying to work on things like sleep and immune support and cleaning and things like that, I probably recommended one of those kits because those top 10 are really core in any home, and Digestin is one of them. So Digestin is the digestive blend, and this is what we use for tummy aches. So we just put it right on the tummy, diluted of course, and it's incredibly soothing for things like tummy aches and constipation or colic, things like that. Lavender is also really good for those types of things as well as calming and sleep. Now, some of you might use lavender on your little ones and find that it hypes them up. And that is a reaction that some kids get. It's a pretty small percentage, but some kids do. And if that's the case, use wild orange instead. Whether you're adult or kid, if lavender does not calm you, use wild orange. They actually have very similar properties, but they do it in different ways. So I've often found that if lavender doesn't work, wild orange will. So we love both of these, and we also love On Guard, and we love the Stronger Kids Blend for immune support. And we also love, we love Serenity and Balance for calming. If my kids are fighting a lot, if they're having trouble with sleeping, we will put those on their spine. It's really hard because I love all of the oils, almost all of them for my kids. There's not really any that I don't love. There's just some I have more preferences for. Like I love Rose for immune support for them because it's just such a gentle oil, but it's so powerful for immune support. And I do use peppermint with my kids, diffusing it on their bodies. I do dilute it more, but that's really because it's kind of a cooling hot oil, just like Deep Blue or Breathe or any of those. But you can use doTERRA's peppermint around children as long as, like I said, you do dilute. And what I do tell people too is, like, when my kids are not feeling well, I diffuse Breathe a lot. Breathe and or On Guard. On Guard for killing germs and Breathe for that respiratory support, because I find that if they're really stuffy and snotty, if I have the Breathe going, they sleep way better. But what I do is I put a little bit less drops in it if I know I'm going to be closing their door, just because it is such a potent oil. I don't want to overwhelm the room. But I normally do that in their rooms because their rooms are smaller, and if I'm gonna shut the door, I'll use a little bit less than the diffuser. So we love that when they're sick. We also love Melaleuca around the ears whenever they're snotty, whenever they have a cold, because they tend to be more susceptible to ear infections because they get that buildup. So using the Melaleuca around the ears really help with that ear drainage and any sort of pain happening. It is just insane because there's so many good oils for kids. And whenever you see me post anything that's really good for myself, know that it likely is probably really good for kids as well. I just, like I said, I dilute it a lot more. But I tend to use the same oils. And sometimes I'll make the kids a blend and I'll use it on myself. I know it's not very strong as far as what my body needs, but I'll just put a little bit of extra on. And at least I'm getting it, because sometimes as a mom, it's a lot easier to put oils on me when I'm putting them on my kids, rather than putting them on the kids and then trying to remember to give myself oils later. So keep them out. I have oils next to my kids where I change my little one's diaper. I have oils right next to the TV in the living area where we are a lot. I have oils next to where we brush our teeth. I have oils next to the kitchen sink. And obviously I keep my oils out of reach of the children because they do know how to open them, although you can buy safety tops for them if you need to make sure that they won't get into them. And my kids, if they open them, they probably dump them out, which is really not ideal. But I do keep them away from them, but I do keep them out where I can see them and remember to use them for myself and my kids, because it's so much better when you're consistent with your oil use, especially for immune support. And that is the number one way I love to use oils, other than anxiety and sleep and calming. Immune support, because I do not want to get sick. I do not want them to get sick, and I want to keep us as healthy as possible, because my kids don't sleep when they're sick, and it's really sad to see them sick. And when you're a mom, you just can't rest when you're sick. So I have a lot of reasons for not wanting to get sick, just like anybody would. So I just wanted to hop on and share with you just my tips for using oils with kids, because I do get a lot of questions around, what oils can I use for this with my kids? Look at what oils you use for yourself and just dilute them more. Or if you have a really hot oil in the mix, maybe take that one out and try a different one instead. But typically they're the same oils. They really are, because they can be used on the whole family. You just want to dilute differently for different ages, because we all need different amounts. So I hope that was really helpful. If you haven't gotten started with oils yet and you want info on my April promotions, which just started today, please go ahead and message me, and I can give you some information on what kind of deals I have going on this month. And they did extend the Deep Blue promotion, and Deep Blue is great for all things sore muscles, aches and pains, circulation. I use it all the time on my back when it hurts, or my hips, or whatever area of my body that is causing me discomfort. And you can actually get that free up until April 15th, the Deep Blue rub and the Deep Blue oil. So super good deal, plus there's some other good deals happening. So if you want more information, just go ahead and shoot me a message, and I'd be happy to tell you about that. And when you do get started with me, you do get access to all of my online education, plus a resource book and all kinds of ebooks and all kinds of other stuff. So you can really learn how to use your oils really well. I will talk to you all soon.